We are live once again. If you're there, welcome. Today we're going to discuss mine and maybe yours. I'm looking at the chat to see if anyone's going to chat with us today. Near-death experiences and spiritual awakening. So anything regarding uh, near-death experiences and spiritual awakening, that's what we're going to discuss today. So we don't know how long this video is going to be. I'll just kind of pontificate and meander. But if you're new here, my name is Zach, and I help guide spiritual seekers like yourself release their fears and deepen their connection to the spirit within. So I look forward to the comments coming up. If you don't watch this and you watch this later on, love to hear your comments, feedback, all that good stuff. And so I'm just gonna, I may write on the whiteboard, I may not. If you keep seeing me looking down, that's because I'm looking at the computer, seeing if there's any comments popping up. I'm gonna start with sharing my own near-death experience. And so my near-death experience happened when I was 14 years old. I am 37 now, so 23 years ago. I had just gotten out of the hospital where I was receiving treatment for leukemia, and I had to get a back brace fitting. So my spine, my 3 lumbar vertebrae, L2, 3, 4, had fractured and collapsed, and I needed a back brace to support me so that my bones could mend and heal. So that morning, my dad and my 4-year-old brother at the time, the 3 of us went, and I had to get some blood drawn. Got some blood drawn, did not eat anything, and then right after that, headed right over to the little technician who was going to take my measurements and then do the molding at his office. And got there. When I got there, I felt a little weak, that little low blood sugar kind of feeling. And so I was standing there kind of on these parallel bars holding myself up while he just measured my chest dimensions, my back and all that, waist, all that stuff. Took about half an hour, but about 15 to 20 minutes in, I started to feel quite fuzzy, that feeling when the tunnel just starts caving in on you. And I had passed out probably 5 to 10 times previously in the last 3 months. So I was accustomed to this feeling. Usually it just meant I needed to sit down and eat something and I'd be good to go. But this time I didn't have any food and I wanted to tough it out and, just be done with it in front of my dad and my brother and this, male technician. And so we get finished up. My dad and the technician had known each other from the music industry, and so they were chit-chatting, and I began walking out of there very quickly. When we get out, and it's just a little office building, get onto the curb. My dad and my little brother are straggling behind, and I rushed pretty much, sped walk as fast as I could to my dad's truck. And I decided that it was go time. Like I was going dark and the tunnel kept closing in, closing in, closing in, closing in, closing in. And so I sat there on the lip of my dad's truck with my elbows on my knees. And my dad was probably about 30 to 40 meters away from me. And I just remember seeing the tunnel going black, 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 black. And I looked at him, and as he rounded the corner with my little brother, I said, "Dad, I'm going to pass." And the lights went out. And when I awoke in this beautiful tunnel. I have this beautiful white light looking in my eyes right now. But I awoke in the most spectacular white, silvery, gold luminescence. And the light, it was around me, and it felt like it was moving through me. And how I've explained it in previous interviews is that it feels like liquid love. It just felt like pure peace and pure joy and pure serenity. No worries, no concerns. And it just felt like it was moving around me and through me. And it went on forever around me and behind, in front of me and behind me. And then I kind of, after I was just enamored with this space, looked forward and I saw this black silhouette figure. And the silhouette figure had a trench coat on. And so I immediately went, "Oh, that's Grandpa Joe." It's my dad's dad, who had made his transition 7 years previously. And I don't honestly remember the conversation that we had, except for him telling me everything's going to be all right. It's all going to be okay. You just have to keep going. And hopefully I'm sorry to interrupt this video, but I hope this is catching. It seems like it's delayed a little bit. Hopefully it's not delayed this time. Anyways, I just remember him saying that to me and thinking, wow, that's nice to hear, but we had a longer conversation, and I just don't think my brain is ready to tap into that message just yet. Or maybe I have, and I just haven't come to realize it. But it felt like we just existed together, speaking telepathically for ever. It felt like it went on for forever. And just, kind of being in this space. I never moved from this tunnel, but we just had this telepathic communication, and he gave me that message that I was going to be okay. I was going to be all right. I just had to keep going. And then pretty suddenly, I got sucked back into my body. I went through this, like, it felt like a tunnel, like a vortex tunnel, but real quickly, like a vacuum just sucked me back. And I was in my body and I could not move. My nervous system just was kind of shut off. But I heard my dad say, Zach, wake up. Are you okay? Zach, are you all right? Zach, wake up, wake up, wake up. Zach, are you okay? And so I I was able to somehow talk, but I still couldn't like move my extremities. And I just said, I, my eyes were closed. I can hear you. I just can't really move yet. And so the voice behind him in the midst of it was, do you want me to call a 911? Is he okay? Do you want me to call 911? And and my dad said, no, 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 he just passed out. I think he'll be all right. And so 30 seconds to a minute later, I woke up, and the terror on my dad's face was just palpable. And not only that, but my little brother standing over his shoulder, who's 4 years old, was just terrified and beyond belief. And the man who I didn't know, who's just a bystander who had just seen me, pass out, he was there too. And it took me about a minute or two, got in my dad's truck, and he decided that we should get the healthiest food possible. So he took me to McDonald's. That's a joke. And I had little like breakfast McDonald's, and right away felt some energy rush back into my body. And at 14, you can imagine, I'm sure, if you remember being 14, or if you are 14 right now, it doesn't, you think, oh, he's just hallucinating these things. It's not real. It's all blah, blah, blah. And so I told my dad about a week or two later, and I said, hey, Dad, I don't want to like weird you out. And I don't even know if what really happened, but when I passed out, I ended up in this tunnel of white light with Grandpa Joe. And my dad is a little worrywart sometimes. And so he said, oh my God, what's going on? Is everything gonna be okay? Are you gonna be all right? I'm 2 months into my treatment for leukemia, for cancer, and I go into this tunnel. And I can, my dad was, I'm sure, terrified. And I said, no. He said, I was gonna be okay. I'm gonna be all right. I just have to keep going. And then I said, but he had like a trench coat on, what I thought of was a trench coat, because I had never seen my grandpa. He'd always dressed up in these nice business suits. He was a professional. He was a chemist, real smart intellect. And I said, I I saw him in a trench coat. I don't know why, but he was just there. And that's when I was like, huh, okay. And a few weeks later, my dad came to me after I'd kind of like 14, just kind of focusing on other things, trying to survive. And he brought me this picture, and he said, "Is this the picture that you saw?" And it was a picture of my grandpa when he was around 30 years old in Prague as a young man in a long day coat. It wasn't a trench coat, but it was a long day coat. And so for me, that was the validation that I was seeking, that I needed for it to tangibly hit my brain to say, oh, I actually did have an experience that was real. It wasn't me making it up. It wasn't a fantasy in my own mind, and it could have been a fantasy, but it was very tangible. And there's no reason for me to have had uh, an image of my grandpa in a trench coat when I'd never seen him in that. And so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. That's my near death experience. So hang out for 1 second. I'm just going to look down. Oh, oh, Lori, I love your question, Lori. How did it change me? So if I'm being honest, I was not significantly changed consciously from my near death experience. I was, I think, opened on a spiritual level so that I could experience um, this voice that I call my little voice in the book that I'm writing. But now I know it as my soul, my higher self, and this group called the Council. And so that is how my near death experience really changed me. Is I think it opened something in my brain so that I could begin receiving messaging and messages from that broader non-physical perspective, right? That soul, that spirit, the God self or the council. So I was able to hear, I've been able to hear this voice in my head in times of real deep questioning or real deep suffering. When I ask a question, I am able to hear an answer when I take my hands off and I let go of trying to force the answer. And oftentimes that helps me through just saying, that's it, I'm just done, I'm letting go, or through meditation now. But I didn't learn meditation until I was 19. And so from the ages of 14 to 19, that messaging that I was receiving was almost like sometimes I thought I was just hearing a voice, like I thought I was schizophrenic, or not schizophrenic, but it just sounded like a secondary voice. But it was always in times when I was really suffering, going through some type of cancer treatment, some type of chemo, or I was having a real struggle. I would just be really needing an answer or some kind of push or guidance or inspiration. And in those moments, I was able to hear that voice and feel the emotion that I was being given to kind of to just keep going and to keep the footing. And as silly as that like phrase is, it's journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, was just to take another step and then another step and then another step. So that was kind of realistically how it's changed me. And then as I got older and I started meditating daily and really studying different scriptures, the Bible, the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, the Dhammapada, like all these different books, I started recognizing that I wasn't as crazy as I thought I was when I was a teenager. That in fact, I was having some type of spiritual awakening, that I was having, that I'd had a spiritual awakening, but I hadn't consciously delved into it yet because I was in survival mode, just trying to heal my body after going through cancer treatment and all that good stuff. So I guess, yeah, that's a good question, Lori. Thank you for your question, Lori. I'm so grateful that you're on here. Um, yeah, I think that is my near-death experience. If you have any other questions now or later, if you watch this video later, throw those in. I love it. Anything you want to know. I'm an open book when it comes to that stuff. And my spiritual awakening. So spiritual awakening, this is kind of, I think these things tie together. Oh, thank you, Lori. You're the wonderful. Lori's wonderful. We love Lori. Thank you for being on here. I found in my experience, and not just in my experience, because in addition to these things, I got kind of weird, right? So you watching this, you're going to be a little weird. We're a little weirdos together. But this near-death experience was part of my deep suffering, and I'm certain that suffering, that contrast, that experiencing unwanted things causes spiritual awakening. So you don't have to have a near-death experience like I did to kind of open these channels. Through the hypnosis sessions that I do, the quantum healing hypnosis sessions. So if you have not had a near death, let me pause for a second. If you've not had a near death experience and you'd like to experience something like that, obviously plant medicines are a great avenue. Quantum healing hypnosis is another wonderful avenue. So finding a practitioner to do that for you, and meditating. So you will open yourself up in, and you have to do this. You have to be in a vipassana meditation. I hate to sound so rigid when I say that, but a walking meditation, it will open your channels up. And you oftentimes, will, if you're really able to be present, but there's something magical that happens when, instead of allowing yourself to kind of focus on the external world, you move inwardly onto your breath, either feeling your breath or feeling your heartbeat. You're moving inwardly. It opens up another channel in your mind. And so I know that for certain, because every single hypnosis session that I've ever done, when I've asked their higher self, their soul, their subconscious, to give these my clients an answer or a suggestion to help maintain this state of joy that they're experiencing, and the state of openness that they're experiencing in the hypnosis session, the higher self, the soul, spirit always responds, they need to meditate. And so if you don't have time to meditate for 20 minutes, meditate for an hour. I don't know who said that, but I really like that statement. And it just means it's very, very, very important. Stilling the outside noise of the world, even in walking meditation, which is a beautiful practice, that should be your daily practice. Your every moment practice is a mindfulness meditation where you're observing the external world and observing your internal world simultaneously. But when you're able to go internally, you are able to expand to another level. And that is how, pause for 1 second, I'm going to read this comment and then I'll come back to that. Oh, that's a great question, Lori. Okay, can I talk about how our suffering or contrast helps the universe expand, and what does it mean that the universe expands? Okay, I don't know if I'm at the level of understanding other than to just regurgitate words when we talk about the universe expanding as a whole. But suffering, we can do a little drawing. So if you, I like doing this drawing. If we'll say, we'll use Lori. Hi, Lori, since we're on here together. Lori, here you are as human Lori. So we're going to go human Lori. And you are this individual, with long, pretty hair and a smile. And you are experiencing physical reality. So you're experiencing reality through your senses. You're experiencing this bubble. And your soul is this ever expanding vibrational being. So your soul is hanging out here, or your higher self. We can call it your higher self. So your Lori's also has nice long hair, and Lori's higher self is overjoyed. Now, Lori's higher self, your soul, your inner being, always is in a state of joy, always is in a state of expansion. The human experiment was designed, and this comes through many different factors. A lot of them hypnosis sessions, a lot of them my own experiences under meditation, experiencing this with source, is that your soul is this ever expanding being wanting to return to unity with the one soul. That's not right. The best way to explain this is the tree of life. I'm going to sit down on my bed for a second. Hopefully you can still see me. We're this beautiful tree of life. And I'm not a good drawer, so this is going to suck. Sorry. And we've got roots going down into the ground, right? We got the root. We'll just think about it that way. And then we've got all of these different branches, just branches and branches. And we got the leaves everywhere. You got just all these just beautiful everywhere. I know, I'm just sorry to do this. Oh, that's actually not a bad tree. That's kind of good. So each one of us, this is the tree of life. Think about this as the totality of creation. All that was, is, and will be. This is the tree of life. Some people explain it as a tapestry as well, but this is a tree. Lori is this, her soul is this branch coming off the tree. And then this branch coming off, this is another extension of Lori as Lori now, or Lori in the past. And then this extension, this branch, is another extension of Lori's soul. So all of this is Lori's soul, 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 soul. These are all the experiences that Lori's had. And as she's going to continue to have more and more lives, if she so chooses, she's going to continue to, this tree is going to continue to expand. And so what's happening is, this is all for just a beautiful, expansive game. The tree of life is ever eternally expanding, right? That is the universe that we talk about, that is in constant flux, in constant growth. The trick with this, and this is super important for a lot of us to recognize, is that we identify ourselves as this little leaf way out here, this one life, Lori. And the beauty of this spiritual awakening journey is not just recognizing yourself as this little leaf that's going to fall off, right? It won't really fall off, but it looks like. But recognizing yourself as this beautiful extension. And then guess what? You are the tree itself. Without all of this, there's nothing. And so the enlightenment that we're seeking, that we look for in our spiritual growth and our spiritual journey, is recognizing that I'm not just this leaf, and I'm not just this branch, or this long branch, this little branch, or this long branch. I am the tree. I am spirit. And as Rumi would say, you're not a drop in the ocean. You're the ocean in a drop. It's the same idea. So that's important to understand. But within this little journey, if we look at just this branch is going to keep thicken and gain rings. And so contrast is unwanted situations. Sorry, Laura, I missed that. Okay, I think you get it. Okay, keep right, Laura. If you don't get it, just keep writing me in there, and I'll hopefully explain, because your questions super help me a lot. But you have an unwanted situation as a human you, and let's say human Lori does not have enough money. Let's just throw that's an easy one. So what happens is, in the midst of asking, or in the midst of the experience of unwanted, Lori's soul, inner being, expands to another version of Lori, a more financially wealthy version of Lori. So now this is Lori with like dollars. What are dollars? There's dollars. And now she's really happy, right? A really wealthy person. And then, but this is the game. This is the tricky part. Human Lori's still here, observing the lack of money. Lori's inner being is expanded. And so now human Lori has to play catch up in her mind, playing games to connect vibrationally with this expanded version of Lori. I like the quote by Abraham. This is going to make sense. Your inner being is never looking backwards. Your soul is never looking backwards. That's a really good one. That's Abraham, by the way. So what happens is, every time human Lori has a desire from unwanted situations, she expands. Soul expands and gets bigger, happier, right? The inner being is always joyful. Inner being is always joyful. She's so happy. She keeps expanding. More money, more health, more healthy relationships. And it's this never expanding game of Lori, the soul, expanding. So this is when we become, sorry, Lori. I like wealthy Lori too. And I like really healthy Lori and really happy Lori. But happiness The emotion is telling you where you are right now in your own thoughts in relationship to this expanded version of yourself. So that is what our emotions are telling us. When we are here, or when we can align our thoughts, think a thought that connects with this person, we feel joyful. Now, how do you know you're thinking the thoughts that the universe, your soul, your higher self has for you? It's by your emotions, your emotional guidance system. And so when you keep looking at, and I did the video about this, I just released it yesterday. When you are looking at the unwanted situation, aka what is unwanted, you are so far from your inner being that you feel powerless. You feel depression. You feel sadness. You feel anger. And when you align your thoughts, when you think a thought that feels better, and you imagine yourself, let's say wealthy Lori, we like $10 million Lori. She deserves it. Why don't you deserve it? Anyone else can have it. You deserve it too. That's a good feeling thought. We get closer. Excuse me, I just burped. We get closer. And so we feel better. And then we keep moving ourselves up with our thoughts, being mindful of our emotions until we get to that state of bliss, of appreciation, of deep love, of deep joy. That's the emotional game. So if our inner being is always in joy, right? This is ultimate joy right here. Joy, always. Always. Your inner being's never not there because your inner being sees everything. Your inner being's at the mountaintop. And your inner being is so grateful. Your soul, this version of you is so grateful for this version of you who's on the leading edge, right? Abraham talks about the leading edge. Look, you are the tree of life. This human is right there on the leading edge, constantly causing expansion for the tree as a whole, growing those rings, right, of the tree, the concentric rings. If you look at it, if you cut a tree in half, the tree starts like that, and then as it gets older, it gets the more of the rings. And so this is part of the growth too. This can happen, boom, in one lifetime, thicken that tree, and then you return and go, oh, of course, it was just for my fun. It was just for joy. It was just a game to experience and to have fun. To have fun. Sorry, Lori, what is it? What is the leading edge? The leading edge is this actual human earthly existence. So human beings are on the leading edge because through contrast, through unwanted, I'm going to write that down. Contrast equals unwanted situations. Contrast um, equals unwanted situations. So that's, sorry, I know I quiet down when I write. So the leading edge is the human experience because the human experience experiences contrast, aka unwanted situations that give rise to desire. Because if you are this person and you're always experiencing joy, you understand that everything's okay. Everything's working out for me. Everything is always working out for me. I am an eternal extension of the tree of life. I am the tree of life. That's who your inner being is. Does that make sense? Your inner being understands that it is an extension of the tree of life. And so human experience, that's why we forget these things, because our human mind needs to forget so that we can play the game with a clean slate, right? It wouldn't be as fun, even though suffering is a pain in the butt sometimes. I know we all, Lori, I know you for sure are experiencing that, and I for sure am experiencing that. When I'm suffering and I'm uncomfortable, it's not fun. But the suffering, the contrast, the unwanted situation is the thing that is actually causing expansion for the soul to grow these concentric rings. And then our job as human beings is understanding that we had the contrast, we had the unwanted situation, and that All we have to do is align our thoughts, meaning consciously think a thought that feels better. Playing games in our own mind that get us feeling as if we are already living this life. There is no reason that we shouldn't be living this life. Like the human being is always playing catch up to the inner being, the soul, the higher self, and that's a good thing. But our if we just played, if we expanded, caught up, expanded, caught up, expanded, caught up, expanded, we'd be having a lot more fun because you'd be wealthy, healthy, your relationships would be amazing, everything would be fantastic. And so this situation is the expansion. Is that, did I answer that question, that Lori? Did I answer that leading edge? So the leading edge is just purely your human experience. The human earthly experience is the leading edge. That's why souls, that's why anyone watching this is is remembering that they are a soul having a human experience. We are very fortunate to be here in this experience on the leading edge. It doesn't always feel like it because when things are going wrong, when your body's not working right, when you don't have enough money, when your relationships stink, it feels pretty poor. It feels uncomfortable. But that, in the scheme of life, in the scheme of the eternal tree of life, what was, is, and will be, in the eternalness of who you are, this eternal being you, it's actually quite exciting. It's like going on a roller coaster ride. So let me look down. Lori, what'd you say? So expansion is kind of like working out, no pain, no gain. Yep, you did the answer. It, that's why I love being an exercise physiologist. It's, you have to do the work. It is that way. Like life, Buddha, his first noble truth when he attained enlightenment, he said life is suffering. His second noble truth was that suffering is caused by attachment. His third noble truth was that there is a way out of suffering. And his fourth noble truth is the Eightfold Path, which is the way out of suffering. And I forget all of them, but the Eightfold Path, the righteous path, is righteous thinking, righteous living, righteous meditation, righteous contemplation, righteous work life, righteous. There's like three other, but that's the Eightfold Path. But the suffering oftentimes can just be translated into discontentment. So it doesn't have to be deep suffering. Deep suffering causes, right? Lots of contrast causes big desire. Unwanted, really big unwanted situation. If you're a human being and you get cancer, guess what? You're not going here. You're jumping right to here. Your inner being's expanding. You want eternal health. If you are here and you lose your job and you have $0 to pay for anything and you've got 3 kids, you don't have a little bit of desire. You have a lot of desire. And so a lot of desire, like we did, I think I did it in the other video, is that means you have a lot of pulling power. You have a lot of attracting power through the law of attraction. When you have a very um, large emotional range, it means you really care and you really want that desire, which means you have more pulling power. When you don't really care about the situation, it would be like, I love this analogy from Abraham. It would be like somebody calling you. Lori will say to you, Lori, somebody called you and said, "Hi, you don't know me, but I just want to let you know that I don't like you and I won't talk to you ever again." Lori, you would say, "Ah, of course. Well, that's not a big deal." But if it was your best friend, if it was your child, if it was your parent, and they said, "Lori, I just want to let you know I don't like you and I never want to talk to you again," you'd feel absolute, right, heartbreak, because you have so much more energy, so much more desire to have a healthy relationship with that, with your family member, than you do with some random stranger, right? There's a lot more pulling power. It's a car driving very fast, and if you hit the brakes, or if you don't hit the brakes, you're going to run into the tree very hard. And so that's the emotion. The emotion equals like the both sides of the emotion equal how far or how close I am to my desire, and how much desire is there, how much pulling power is there to have that actual experience that I'm wanting. Um, yeah, sorry, I'm just looking down. I, that's why I need glasses. I don't wear contacts. I just I wear glasses, but I didn't put them on. Is that it? That's a pretty that's a I think that's a pretty good explanation. We kind of went into more like law of attraction teachings. Yeah, 35 minutes. We went into more law of attraction teachings. This is definitely like law of attraction 101. It's a little bit stronger, but this is our spiritual awakening, right? It's remembering that you are this beautiful tree of life. You are the ocean. You are the ocean in a drop. And so, because you are all this, you have access to all spiritual awakening. What has been said, and I'll say this, and I don't know how true it is, to be honest with you, but in my hypnosis sessions, people that tend to be more spiritually evolved, meaning you could call them old souls, you could just see the essence of them. You know, you can feel their energy when you're around them. You can feel that they're wise and deep, and they have a deep knowing. They tend to reach like it's like a level. If you want to think about it, it's like a video game level. You tend to reach these different layers of existence, and you have access to um, deeper wisdom. But I've never heard an inner being when I was talking with them say that the they 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 could that inner being could not attain those heights in this physical life through this human experience. It just would require deeper suffering or more diligence and more discipline on like meditating and letting go and having an earnest desire to grow spiritually, to learn, to have the answers to the questions that we have for life, like why are we here, why do we suffer, why are other people, why are my question was always, why are kids dying from cancer? From 14 to 19, I watched kids all the way from 2 years old up to 16 years old die of cancer. And so for 5 years, I had immense, deep questioning, and that was a lot of contrast. I also had this gift of this near death experience. So I kind of, as much as it sucked, I was asking so many questions every single day. Not just why am I suffering, but why is that 3-year-old suffering, and why is that 7-year-old suffering, and why are my parents suffering, and my brothers and all the family members of the kids and the nurses and the like I was asking those questions, and I was not willing to just settle for, oh, it's God's will. It's God's will. You have this design, and that sounds so bad. Any Christian person watching this, I hate to like diminish your experience or anything, but God's will is this. I'm pontificating a little bit. God's will is your will. The deep desire of your heart is God's desire for you. It's this. This is God. This right here is God. This tree is just in existence for growth, for joy, for love, for fun. And that's why we want to have so much fun, and we don't want to experience the contrast. Sorry, Lori, I'm going to look down. Do you know spirits grow on the other side? Honestly, I've never heard that spirits grow on the other side, especially when I have people go through a hypnosis session and they're on the other side or we're talking to their soul. I think it's possible, but it doesn't, you expand, but when you're a human being, you get to level up so much quicker because you will grow. And like, just think about it for a second. You're like, think about yourself right now, Lori. For you are an eternal being. No, imagine yourself as an eternal being that knows everything about your life right now and everything that you've ever experienced in the past. And think about all the understanding that they have. They don't forget any. There's nothing that's forgotten there. Like your brain is just in this reality. It's so tangible. It can't hold all that potential information, but your inner being can. And so your inner being already knows all that and has all that access to all that wisdom. It it's slow. It's like thinking of this sounds bad. I'm throwing myself under the bus right now. But if you read a book about a person that was born, and they were born to two wonderful parents, and they went and they played sports in school, and then they got all straight A's, and then they married their college sweetheart, and they got a doctorate, and everything went well, and all the businesses went well for, or they got their degree, and they became a professor and had businesses, and they made buku bucks of money, and they had wonderful healthy kids and a wonderful marriage, and they lived a happy life, and then they died. That sounds lovely, but it also sounds terribly boring. And so you can kind of think about that like as your inner being. Your inner being is living that life and is so grateful to you, human Lori, for expanding them perpetually, because you're always asking. Our reality can't stop us from asking, and the inner being is always going to expand in proportion to our asking. Now, if I go a little Buddhist with us, enlightenment, or the Buddhist principle, is accepting this contrast for what it is, acknowledging and saying thank you for this contrast, because I know it's just temporary, and I know that naturally, as I take my hands off and trust that it's going to work out for me and just follow the intuitive guidance, I'm naturally going to play catch up. And so the Buddhist, a true Buddhist, right, the deep practicing Buddhist, or Buddha himself, Buddha recognized this. That was what made him an enlightened being. He recognized this fully, and he didn't just recognize it, but he lived it. Jesus recognized this and lived it. They recognized that they were aspects, they were sons of the divine. They were extensions, right? A son is an extension of the father and mother. And within the son is imbued all the power of the father and the mother. It's there, right? So I think I just went off on a tangent. Oh, crap. So the Buddhist, let me get back to my point. The Buddhist acknowledges this moment has both unwanted and wanted. This moment has both joy and pain. This moment has both sadness and deep happiness. This moment has gain and loss, the balance of life. And so the Buddhist, instead of recognizing all the time the unwanted, it sees the unwanted, but then recognizes that on the opposite side of the coin is the opposite of what I'm looking at. I'm looking at pain, I will get pleasure. I'm looking at sadness, I will get happiness. I'm looking at despair, I will get joy. In Buddhism, they actually say Buddha said the three causes of suffering, I might get this wrong, I hope I don't, are ignorance, greed, and hatred, or anger and hatred. And those are the three wheels. They're the three, I forget, it was samsaras. They are it's the wheel of the wheel of karma. So the anger that we feel, the greed that we feel, and the ignorance that we feel, it's going to continually fuel us returning and being human beings. But if we can just flip hatred around, we get, or is it greed? We get generosity. When it's ignorance, we get wisdom. And when it's anger, we get compassion. And so if we can just flip those around and be compassionate instead of angry, wise instead of ignorant, and generous instead of greedy, then we will have lived a very joyful life, and we will have broken that wheel of karma, of having to come back and atone for all of our so-called sins or the things. But that's on another, we'll do that a different time. We'll do that on another video of karma and all that good stuff. Sorry, Lori, what did you say? Oh, hi, Jeff. How's it going? Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you watching, Jeff. If you have questions, throw them in there. We kind of talked about a lot, but yeah, that's a very long-winded answer for you, Lori, about if spirits grow on the other side. There's no reason to, and that's why you keep coming back to being human, is because of the magnitudes of expansion that you get from being a human being. And yeah, so that's that. Any other questions? I kind of we had a good talk. We had any other questions, Lori or Jeff? Maybe Jeff throws a question there. Maybe I can answer it or reiterate what we already talked about. But yeah, that was my near death experience, uh, and it to come to all these things we just talked about. It took me many years of diligent, and I'm still learning. It's a constant learning. I think what's helped me truly most is meditating every day and having the different experiences I've had out of body, and hearing voices on a much grander level, and then journaling them. That's been important, journaling what I hear, because oftentimes it makes it more tangible. It's not just hearing, it's now I can write it down. And then honestly has been being a facilitator of a lot of these quantum healing hypnosis sessions, because when you talk to somebody's soul, it's just if you haven't watched a video of a hypnosis, a quantum healing hypnosis session, I suggest you go check one out right now on YouTube. And they're just there's no way to describe them, because as a practitioner you can feel the energy shift in the room, and you can feel the power through which the soul will speak to you. And then, having had my own sessions twice now, where I was the patient or the client, and having the counsel speak through me and my soul speak through me, has just been more than profound. And those things are really just beautiful experiences that will help us, that have helped me come to this knowing. It's not even a questioning anymore. Like, I know these things to be true, because hundreds of people that didn't know each other have all said the same thing, and aren't even on the same path, but their soul says the same thing. And you do get different answers from different people who are on different spiritual paths. The more evolved your path in this life, the soul does tend to be more evolved and give you deeper answers, and vice versa. But you still get these very profound answers, and I can't even quantify them all. But Dolores Cannon has great books where she's quantified them, and they all repeat themselves. They all regurgitate very similar information. Let me answer that question. Wow, that sounds really cool. I'll look for some videos. Yeah, definitely check those out, Lori. They're just the quantum healing hypnosis, and they'll actually video the client under, so they're verbalizing these answers to these different questions. They're just fantastic to watch. But even to be part of it and to be the practitioner that I'm helping facilitate for these people is beyond mind blowing. And the energy that changes in the room, it gets very cold for me in the room, but I get very hot, and my vision changes and it gets blurry, like I just changed dimensions or something. It's weird, and I don't know how to explain that, it, other than to say that, because you have to experience it, right? Words don't teach, only life experience teaches. That's why you're a human being, because your experience is growing your inner being, right? Your inner being is expanding in proportion to the experiences you're having. Because I could tell you these things, and until you have an actual deep experience for yourself, it's just words. And I want you guys to have these experiences. That's why I do the meditations every weekend, and I suggest that everybody meditates for 15 to 20 minutes a day. Just close your eyes, put in headphones with music if you have to, or put on your phone timer for 15 minutes. Just sit there and feel your breath going in and out of your body. Just pay attention to your breath. That's what you do. Even if you don't want to do it, try it. It may not happen wonderfully at first. Your thoughts will maybe crazy in your head at first, but with practice, with time, your mind will begin to settle. It's like a very a pond that's just going through a storm. Your mind has been going through a storm for 30, 50, 70, 20 years, however long you've been alive. And so the meditation is learning to quiet the storm, so everything can just settle. But it does take time. It takes, I give it 6 weeks. Do it every day for 6 weeks, and come back to me and tell me how you feel. I think that was um oh, yeah, sorry, Laura. It says your message was retracted. Um, yeah. All right. I think that's it. Unless anyone else has any questions, Lori. And thank you, Lori. You're awesome. I appreciate you asking all these questions. And hopefully we can. It says, "Kay, we'll do." That was great. And hopefully we'll have more people on. Lori, you can keep coming back, Lori, and we can do these every Friday night at 8, and we'll be answering all types of fun questions. And anyone else who joins, we'd love to have you. Lori's an amazing, your kick butt, Lori. I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for the questions. It really, really helped me. And yep, so I will talk to Lori and everybody else next time. I love you so much. Thank you so much for being a part of this, particularly you, Lori, and everyone else who watches. Until next time, I love you guys. You are safe, you are protected, and you are loved, and you are worthy. And I will see you guys next time. All right. Love you. Bye.